Let's talk about PSR, because there's a brilliant article today by Sam Wallace in The Telegraph. It's something that we've articulated a lot, actually, on this show and on the Premier League All Access podcast, dating back to the autumn. And it's this question: how can PSR be good for football if what it does at its heart is encourage you to sell your younger players? Young players such as Conor Gallagher at Chelsea, Jared Branthwaite at Everton, more likely to be sold because their transfer fees go on the books as pure profit. So, you elevate yourself further away from the PSR issues that you might have if you sell some of your younger talents, rather than if you sold an established star from Europe, someone you just bought in, for example. Surely, as a league, once you realise that this is an issue, once you realise that actually these rules have been written in a half-baked way, and what they actually do is they destroy the confidence of people who work in the academy and who live and breathe to develop talent for the first team, destroy the relationships and the bonds that are built between footballers that have come through your structure, your academy, your training facility, and emerge onto your first team, and the bond between the supporters that is built up because it's one of their own going and representing your football club. If the idea behind PSR or one of the unthought out consequences of PSR is that you sell your best developed homegrown talent, then surely as soon as you realise that as a league, you go, hold on a second, let's sort this out. That's not right. Obviously, the rules aren't 100% right. If you want profit and sustainability rules, then that's absolutely okay. If you want to try and create a level playing field, by the way, you're never going to do it, not in the same way that the Americans do it in the NFL or the NBA or in the NHL or in Major League Baseball, because it's never the same, because we have a completely different system here. Then you've got to make a change. You have to immediately pull the alarm call and go, we've got to do something about it, because this is clearly not right. You should be rewarded for producing players that play in your first team, not rewarded for producing trading chips where you can get yourself out of a financial hole. I just do not understand how on earth these rules have been written, with the eventual consequence being, let's sell our best academy graduates. It's ludicrous.
It's ludicrous, but you just alluded to it there, the financial hole, right? The reason that Chelsea, and you mentioned Everton, are going to have to do it is because of their poor recruitment and spending money on players that they hadn't done their due diligence on properly. If you look with Chelsea, amortisation, is it?
Amortisation.
Yeah.
But the problem is that they can spend £100 million on a foreign star, because that fee is amortised over 8 years
contract,
right? And then they can sell one of their younger stars, because the 40 million quid they might get for Conor Gallagher goes straight onto the books right now.
Right, straight away.
Well, that's stupid.
It is a silly rule, and it should be changed. The reason that the PSR and the FFP was all brought in initially was to safeguard clubs' futures, so they didn't overspend money. So they didn't spend money they didn't have, which you obviously worked down in Portsmouth. Then Leeds United, the same thing. Leeds United had their module under Peter Ridsdale, where they were hoping they were going to get in the Champions League, and they get Champions League money, and then that can pay players' wages and can pay the debts off and whatever, and they didn't. And that's when they went into financial problems.
I understand the principle behind it, but they've been written badly. Basically, it is a construct to try and placate the government so that they taper down the influence of the football regulator, which is expected to come in during the next parliament. That's what it was all about. It's showing that they can regulate themselves. Actually, what it has done is it has put young English talent on the market from the minute they break in to the first team. The idea between Dan Ashworth and Gareth Southgate 15 years ago, when they developed EPPP, was to try and bring through as much good English talent as possible,
in the
so
academies.
that it thrived on the Premier League stage, increased the percentage of number of players that could play in the Premier League from an English background, so that they get into the England national team, and the England national team could thrive. Actually, we've got loads of players that have come through the system now. Great, fantastic. Mainly down to that, the benefits of that. But some of them are playing abroad because it's better for us to sell them from our Premier League clubs than it is to keep hold of them, because on the balance sheet we get greater value for them. It's ludicrous.
And what it is as well, the EPP was SLAMP was brought in as well, so that the Premier League clubs could basically go into the FL and take their best players.
That is also another problem.
That was why it's done, and that was a bit of blackmail. I spoke to Barry Fry about it. They actually said that if they, took the money, the payments from the Premier League, if they took that money to help the FL clubs out, then they'd have the EPPP. If they didn't, then they wouldn't. That money wouldn't filter down.
But it's not the only issue with PSR, is it? Because if you look at Aston Villa, they make a break for the top four. They've got ambitious owners who've got loads of money, right? Okay, but because of the way that the UEFA distribute their money, they're never going to be able to get as much as Manchester United and Manchester City and Chelsea when they're in UEFA competitions, because it's done on a coefficient basis. So your historical placings in European competitions means you get more money, even if you go out like Manchester United did. In the group stage, the amount of difference between what Newcastle got and what Manchester United got is ridiculous, even though they went out at both the same stage.
That's to protect the cartel. That's to protect
exactly.
the cartel.
And that's another problem with it, because at £119.6 million losses, Villa, they're in danger of breaching, so they're going to have to sell someone. Newcastle, another example, it's gatekeeper for the rich.
They say their premise was it's going to stop clubs going bankrupt and spending they haven't got. But on the other side of it, it's protected the cartel at the top, because it's more difficult now to break in to those clubs that are established and got their revenue streams and the sponsorship deals. So there's not many other businesses, Sam, where if you have money and you prove that you have money, that you're stopped from spending it to be competitive against your competitors. Because Newcastle is the biggest example. They are probably the richest club in the world, with obviously the Saudi backing. They can't spend and go and get the players that they want to get, even though they have the money, to make them more competitive and get into the Champions League. So they then get better players, then you get more money, then you get more revenue and sponsorship in. So that's got to change. I think that's got to change as well.
Absolutely. And look, I think there's two debates here. I'm talking about PSR. I'm not talking about ownership, right? That's completely different. Once you allow anyone to buy a football club, once you don't put in place rules like they have in Germany, where it's got to be a certain number of percentage owned by the fans.
51% is the fans.
50 plus one, I think it is. It's something like that, right? If you don't have those protectionist rules already in place, once you open the door to any business being able to purchase a football club as a business, then you can't control. You legally are not going to be able to control who takes over a football club. It's not going to happen. Unless you put legislation in place, you are not going to be able to control it. So that's something completely different. But what you can do is control spending. But if you're going to do that, and I'm all for controlling spending and making it more level in a sensible way, if that's what you want to do, you have two problems. You're in danger of killing the product, which is what you did last year, because you never knew who had what points total at the bottom of the table. So you never really, no team really knew where they were in the table. Everton didn't know really where they were in the table till April. Nottingham Forest didn't know where they were because they didn't know how many points they were going to get deducted. And Luton didn't know what they had to do because they didn't know how many points they were going to have to get to overhaul Everton and Nottingham Forest, because they didn't know what total they had. You kill the product and then you sell the best young talent. It just doesn't make any sense. Surely someone's got to be brave and go, hold on a second, lads. Let's stop this. Let's do something different.
The rules have to be changed, you said there.
And it's the clubs. It's not shadowy people in the background. It's not like it's the clubs that wrote them.
Exactly. It's the Premier League. Obviously, it's Richard Masters, obviously, he was in charge of the Premier League. So I think from fans' point of view is you want to see players coming through the academies. You want to see players coming through the homegrown.
Exactly.
Because they give the club the soul, they give the club the heart. We spoke about Conor Gallagher, obviously playing at Chelsea, made a big difference there, but he would make other players aware of what the club was about without any shadow of a doubt. And that goes through any successful club, even if you go back to Manchester United, obviously the class of 92 coming in and having that heartbeat, that soul of the club. And there's nothing better than seeing a local player going in and getting in the first team and making a name for themselves. If you take away that, which you're saying, that all of a sudden they become pure profit, then that's going to become less and less, and your club is going to lose a bit of its soul and a little bit of its heart. But on the other side of it...
the idea of the regulator and the PSR stuff is to try and protect clubs. And then what you're actually doing is killing them slowly but surely by taking away the soul, that essence that you've built up, the idea of becoming... I mean, Conor Gallagher, he is Chelsea through and through. He should be someone that they include in their team for the next 5 years or whatever.
And you build
he's the
squad
captain.
around, exactly, yeah.
You know, come on. You've got this opportunity. The fans have got a connection with him. He's got a connection with the fans and the club. Not selling him because, we got to get £40 million on our balance sheet. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
On the amortisation of the contract, do you think that contracts should be they're going to be curtailed, aren't they? You can't give a contract than 4 or 5 years.
Well, yeah, apparently. But then I saw someone give someone a 6-year contract the other week, so I'm not necessarily sure that's come in yet. However, I think I'm not a financial expert. I don't know how it all works and how it should all work, and certainly contract law is not on my skill set. However, I'm sure there are brighter people than me who can work out a system where the rules do not encourage you to sell your best players, where the rules are clear and unambiguous, where the rules can be applied at a certain juncture so that everybody knows the punishments, or if there are any punishments, at a time which doesn't influence the outcome of the table or make it ambiguous what the table is going to be at the end of the season. It all should be clear and it should be obvious, to borrow a phrase from another construct which is caused a bit of controversy this season.
It's got to be it's errors now, isn't it? It's a wrong decision. It's not clear and obvious anymore, is it?
Sorry, have they changed their mind?
And it's wrong decision, I think. That is a wrong decision.
Yeah.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.